we can start with today's talks. Today's theme is about open science in general and different aspects of this trend. We are moving to the next talk, which is a talk by Denis Bourguet and Thomas Guillemaud. Sorry if I misspelled your names.
That's okay.
Both of them are researchers at the INRAE and are co-founders and co-managers of Peer Community, an alternative publication system created in 2016 based on peer reviews and recommendations of preprints. Denis and Thomas were awarded the LIBER Award for Library Innovation in 2020 by the Association of European Research Libraries. And with that, I will give you the word and the screen.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, David. Thanks a lot, Pierre and Julia, for organizing and inviting us to give this talk. So Thomas is here as well. I will give the talk, and we will both answer the question. So do you see my screen? And do you see my pointer?
Yes.
Yes, excellent. So with Thomas and Benoît Facon, we started 4 years ago now this project, Peer Community In, and we are all at INRAE. So in a sentence, Peer Community In is a free recommendation process of preprints based on peer reviews. So I shortened the presentation because I was afraid about being too long. So just a few words, a first slide about the scientific publication system. So we consider it as too long because a reader can have access to paper more than a year, sometimes several years after submission. It's a process not very transparent because the reviews, the editors are unknown, the conflict of interest are unstated, and as said by Alfredo, the methods, data, and script codes parameters are often not available, which is a big problem. Also, the system is very expensive. This is a market of 10 billion euro per year for 3 million articles, which means an average of 3,000 euro per article. And with extraordinary profit margin by the big publishers, Elsevier, Nature Wiley, Nature Springer Wiley, etc. So the average profit margin is around 30 to 40% for these 5 big publishers. And think about it, it's quite a vicious system because these publishers are making money by publishing paper, and the more papers they publish, the more money they are making. And us, as researchers, the more papers we are publishing, the best it is for our career. So there is a kind of conjunction of interest which is not good for the quality of science. So we think that preprints can save some of the problem because preprints are quite good. It makes studies available for immediately, for free for authors and readers. The proof of anteriority, and it is searchable and findable in the internet. But there is a putative quality problem because there is no peer review of preprints. We have seen this with the COVID-19 crisis, and everything can be found in Open Archive, including preprints of very bad quality. So actually what we need with preprint is an evaluation, and we think that this evaluation can be disconnected from publication. It could be disconnected from the market, and it could be organized by ourselves. So this is where we are with the Peer Community project. Our goal is to create several communities of researchers evaluating through peer reviews and recommending, highlighting article preprints in their scientific fields. So we started with PCI evolutionary biology with Thomas and Benoît because we are evolutionary biologists. So then we started with new PCIs genomics, and so on. I will give you details of all the PCIs at the end. So we recommend articles, preprints actually, deposited in preprint servers like Archive, Zenodo, bioRxiv, and so on. And the characteristics of the PCI, it is that it is completely free for authors as well as for readers. And actually, we do not publish the paper. We will see this in details. we publish recommendation and the reviews of the preprints. So how PCI is working? So the first step when authors want to submit to PCI, the first step is to deposit their preprint in a preprint server. And we ask them as well to deposit their data, script, and codes to make them publicly available. Once they have deposited their preprint in a preprint server, they can go to the PCI website. So for example, if it is a manuscript in Ecology, they go to the PCI Ecology website. So here they submit their manuscript. So they indicate the link to their manuscript. They indicate the abstract, the authors, and so on. And they suggest what we call recommenders, which are the equivalent of associate editors in journals, to organize the evaluation process of their paper. So sometimes the recommenders are not interested by the preprint, and the preprint is not considered by the PCI. But if one of the suggested recommenders decide to handle the manuscript, they organize a peer review of this preprint. So they invite reviewers until they obtain at least 2 peer reviews, and based on these 2 peer reviews, they make an editorial decision. The editorial decision can be to reject the paper, to ask the authors to make revision, or to accept the paper. So you can have, like in a journal, you can have several rounds of peer reviews, but at the end, the paper will be rejected or will be accepted. In case of acceptance, there will be 2 steps, 2 things happening. Authors will deposit a final version in the preprint server, and the recommender will write a recommendation. So it is a kind of news and view explaining the context and the quality of the paper. So on the PCI website, we publish this recommendation text, as well as all the reviews and all the editorial correspondence, authors' replies, and all editorial correspondence on the PCI website. So at the end, this preprint, so this final version of the preprint, is a final article which is valid and can be citable in the literature. So this is to give you an example of the template of an article recommended by PCI Evolutionary Biology. So at the end of the process, the authors can be satisfied by the PCI recommended article and can leave it in the preprint server. But they can also decide to submit it for publication, and they can decide, for example, to publish it in peer community journal, so which is a new journal. We will launch it at the fall 2021, so this year at the autumn. So this journal will be a diamond journal, so it will be open access, and there will be no APC, no cost for authors to publish in it. So they can decide to publish in peer community journal, or they can decide to submit it to a PCI-friendly journals. So we have different PCI-friendly journals. Some of them are accepting papers recommended by PCI right away without further peer reviews. Some of them are given an answer in usually less than 5 days, and this answer will be that they will accept the paper without further peer review, or that they will send it again for peer review, or that they will not be interested by the paper. In that case, the authors can have the choice to not formally submit it to the journal, so they can go back to publish it in peer community journals, or to send it to another PCI-friendly journals to get, again, a response quite quickly. So with this system, the authors will have a 100% chance to get their PCI recommended articles published. So as I said, there are several PCI-friendly journals with various categories. So some of them, like Belgium Journal of Zoology, will accept without further peer reviews. Some of them will give an answer in 5 days. This is a kind of pre-inquiry submission. So Ecology Letters, Journal of Evolutionary Biology, Evolution Letters, Evolution, Oikos, plus Biology. You all know these journals. So in less than 5 days, they will give you this answer, one of these 3 answers. So other journals like eLife, they do not come 5 days, but they may use the evaluation of PCI if adequate. In case PCI-friendly journals publish a PCI-recommended article, they will put a note like this one. This is an example in Ecology Letters and in Evolution. This manuscript has undergone open peer review, and they give the link to the recommendation. And as I said, we will start the peer community journal in fall this year, 2021. So this journal will accept, as is all PCI recommended preprint, and it will be free for authors, no APC, and free for readers. So what is the advantage for authors? What is the advantage for you? So if you have a recommended article, so as I said, there is a 100% chance to publish in an indexed and open journal rapidly and for free. This is there will be a transparent editorial process with review and recommendation with the PCI evaluation, the PCI recommendation. And also you have the possibility to know within a few days if one or more PCI-friendly journals would be interested by publishing your paper or to request further peer reviews, and you can decide what to do. So currently at PCI we have 13 PCIs, and we have received more than 400 submitted article submissions, and we have recommended more than 200 articles so far. So you can see the different numbers. And what is important is that we have received so far the support from more than 100 organizations. So as I said before, we started with PCI evolutionary biology 4 years ago. 1 year later, we started PCI ecology and PCI paleontology. In 2019, we started PCI in animal science and zoology. Last year, 6 more PCIs, and this year we started the PCI evolutionary, registered reports. So it was mentioned by Alfredo, and it is an important one, and PCI ecology and environmental chemistry. We received the support from several scientific societies, including the SFE2 and including the AEET as well. And we have also the support from many organizations, including INRAE, of course, because this is our institute, and many French universities and institutions, and step-by-step foreign universities like Belgium universities, as well as some institutes like Max Planck Institute. So step-by-step also, we have a recognition by evaluation committee. So abroad it's quite difficult, but in France we have received the support from many evaluation committee, like the section at the co-NRS, and from the universities as well, and INRAE and ERD. And all these evaluating committee, they consider preprint recommended by PCI as the equivalent of article published in indexed scientific journals. An important point for you is that PCI recommended articles are recognized by doctoral schools. You can see the list here. I don't know in Spain, but in France, most of the doctoral schools, they ask PhD students to have at least one or several papers before defending their PhD. So PhD students can use PCI recommended preprints so before to defend their PhD. So if you like PCI, if you like the idea how you can participate, you can of course spread the word and invite us like Pierre, David, and Julia to present PCI in webinar to your department, lab, etc. You can contact us if you have connection with journals that could be PCI-friendly journals. You can register on the website. Of course, you can submit your preprint. If you start to have good experience in publication as editors or as authors, you can become recommenders as Alfredo. And you can give us contact to obtain support and recognition. And of course, if you have in a different field, you can create a new PCI. We can talk about this. Thanks for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Denis and Thomas. That was also really interesting, and yeah, I'm so glad to see the PCI initiative growing stronger. If there is any question, feel free to ask now. talking to the participants. In the meantime, I do have a couple of questions briefly before the break. What are the, even within journals that are associated or that they accept in principle PCI recommendations, do you see differences in their attitude towards them? Because one of the things that actually takes back a little bit researchers from going through the PCI path is the possibility of having different sets of review processes altogether. So do you see any difference across journals in their response to PCI preprints, in the sense that whether they are more likely to accept directly without reviews, or they usually send to reviews again?
Yeah, I can try to reply. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
So there are some differences between journals, and some of the differences are obvious, and some of the differences are not so obvious. But for instance, it's not a secret, but for instance, American Naturalist at the beginning was not PCI friendly, and then they became friendly in the sense that they accepted to receive submissions from PCI authors. But they recently told us that in any case, they would send the articles in peer review, because they have a very complex and specific peer review process. So for instance, in this case, it's very particular. And on the contrary, there are some journals like Oikos who are completely different, and they more often accept articles without peer review, without further peer review. So it depends on the journal. But the interest of the new system with the loop process of submission is that you can make a pre-submission inquiry to the journal and get an answer in 5 days. So if you are not satisfied with the answer, you just lose 5 days and you can submit to another journal. And you can submit at the end of the process, in any case, to the peer community journal. So, and this will be possible in the future, not really now.
Thanks.
So clearly, you can avoid to have your paper send it again for peer review.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's an important point. Because that's from my personal perspective, something that sometimes comes up, whether it's gonna going through this process is going to actually take longer and blah blah blah. But that's really well designed. Martin has a question. Do you see an increasing number of submissions in PCI over time?
Actually, no, it's quite stable. In the oldest PCI Evolutionary Biology and Ecology, we have a stable number of submissions. So, and we know one of the reasons for this is that a lot of researchers, they need publication at the end. So this is even more true in the Spanish or Italian system, where researchers are evaluating depending on the number of papers published in journals. So clearly they cannot use PCI, as a valid reference, so they need to go again for publication, and so it's not very attractive currently. And this is why we decided to create the peer community journals, to be sure that at the end, authors can publish rapidly and without further peer review immediately.
And this is also why we created this possibility of a submission loop.
Yep.
For the same reason.
Yes. In that sense, a related question: do you see an increase in the number of institutions that accept PCI as valid papers, for example, for doctoral committees and so on, not only in France but in other countries?
Yeah, so in other countries. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you started. Just go.
No, I was saying that in France it's quite easy, because first of all we are French and we have more connection, but it's not only this, it's just because committees are quite central. It's not depending on single universities, which is not the case in other countries. So we have to step by step I mean, university by university to convince them to use PCI. So it's not very easy to contact and to convince this evaluating committee. So yeah, currently it's quite difficult to have this recognition.
But it is true that there are more and more institutions and universities that support PCIs. And there are many more supports from universities and institutions compared to the number of articles that we receive as submissions. So there is a clear increase in supports and a stability on the number of articles that we receive as submissions.
What we can see also that there is a change in universities and institutions with open science and with a change of practice and not using impact factors. And so we think that practices in evaluating committees will change over time. We have heard about, for example, evaluating committees in Netherlands. Universities, they clearly indicate that they will have a look on different type of publication. So PCI could be recognized step by step by these universities.